This is crucial. I mean, if you don't know this, just don't do it, guys. Seriously, if you don't know it, don't do it. Hello, lovely couples, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lauren, wedding planner and owner of Bluebird Creative. I provide a weekly dose of wedding planning goodness for the modern couple. So if you haven't already, guys, make sure you subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the bell, then you'll be notified every week when a new video lands. Congratulations if you are new, newly engaged or new to the channel. You have got a very, very exciting journey ahead of you. And this week is a really good video to have jumped on board. If you are considering having a marquee wedding or a tent wedding, you really need to watch this video, because if you don't know this stuff, just don't do it, guys. Don't do it. So this week's video is all about advice for marquee and tent weddings. Now, if you don't know this advice, you're in the right place, so it's fine. You're here, so you're going to know this advice by the end of the video, so make sure you watch all the way to the end, and then it's going to be smooth sailing. I have teamed up with Coastal Tents this week, and I sent them a list of questions and asked them to give me their top tips when planning a marquee wedding. So I am going to give you the information and their top tips on having a marquee wedding so that you guys don't make silly mistakes, because you're basically building a venue from scratch. Mistakes can happen very easily with a marquee. So let's find out what their top tips are. Cannot wait to share them with you. So Carla says that finding the right site is like the #1 top tip. You need to find the right location for your wedding and for your marquee. So whether that's your home garden or a location by the sea, it's the most important place to start. So make sure that you do that first before doing anything else. And I obviously agree with that. I mean, it's literally the backdrop to your wedding. You need to know where it's going to be and then how you're going to go ahead with that. So 100% agree with that. Her next tip is to have a think about what the site is actually like. So a sloping site can be okay, depending on the structure that you use, and teepees can manage a slope better than a traditional marquee, just due to the way that they sit on the ground. But obviously a flat site is much more preferable. There is the alternative of actually having a scaffold structure installed onto the site, but obviously that's not very cost effective, so it is going to be a little bit more of your budget. And then finally, just consider the orientation of the marquee. Which way do you want it to face? What are the views going to be like? And so on. So next tip is, what does the site have and what do you need? So you might find that you require toilets and a generator, which are most likely going to be the case. If it's at a home garden, then the likelihood is you're not going to want people trampling in through your private property and using the toilets. You might want to set something up outside. It's usually the safest and best option. Some of the purpose-built marquee sites have on-site toilets and on-site power, which can obviously save you money. And obviously don't forget that you need water for your caterers as well, for any washing up and that sort of thing. So the next tip is to obviously consider the weather. We always need wet weather options. We consider that when we're planning a wedding anyway, and it's no exception when you're planning a marquee or a teepee wedding. So is the site exposed to wind or rain? Is the likelihood of it getting saturated high? Perhaps if you're having a winter wedding. If you're thinking of having an outdoor ceremony, have you got a wet weather option within the marquee if the weather is not so kind? Marquee companies can also provide heating if you're getting married in the colder months, and if you're hiring a teepee, then you can actually have fire pits as well, which is really cool. So the next tip is to make sure that you've actually arranged a site visit. This is key, guys, like absolutely key. Measuring up with a marquee company is so important. Please don't try to do this on your own. It means that they can actually let you know officially whether they think the marquee is going to fit your site. They can tell you where the access options might be, if they think there's going to be any issues with access for suppliers, and where you might need additional matting and lightways for pathways and so on. So it's really key that they actually come to the site and do a proper visit. So important. Then we're moving on to marquee size, which again is really important and kind of relates in with that site visit. Your marquee company can actually advise you on the size of the marquee depending on the space that you've got and the amount of guests that you've got. You don't want a marquee too small because you're going to have people spilling out onto the grounds, which isn't good if you don't have amazing weather. And you also don't want a marquee that is too big, because having a big empty space is not the one. It's going to feel like nobody's turned up. even though they will be there, but it's not going to feel like it because you're just going to have too much space. So again, consulting with the professional, having them come do that site visit so they can advise you is key here. Don't try and do that on your own unless you work at a marquee company. Now, this next tip I'm obviously going to agree with, but I am a little bit biased. Carla says to consider a wedding planner. The reason she says that, and obviously I wholeheartedly agree with this, is because marquee weddings have a lot more things to consider in the planning process. And that's both before, during and after the wedding. There are just so many more moving parts involved. A good planner will liaise with the suppliers, they will fix any issues that arise, make sure that the decorations and all the rubbish are cleared, turn off the generators, deal with any unexpected eventualities. I mean, I don't really need to go on about it too much. If you want to know what a wedding planner does, or at least an on-the-day coordinator does, then I will link a video up here for you. But I do obviously agree with what she is saying. You are essentially building a venue from scratch and there is nobody working that venue. So it is a good idea to have a wedding planner and at the absolute minimum, a wedding day coordinator. So I'll link the coordination video for you here as well, and then you can see what the difference is between the two. And if you're thinking of having a marquee wedding, then definitely approach somebody locally to you or that works in your area to investigate that, because it will just make your life so much easier. So there we go, guys. 7 top tips and pieces of advice if you are thinking of having a marquee wedding. So let's just really quickly recap. We've got: make sure that you choose a good location and consider the slope or the terrain that you're actually thinking of putting the marquee on. So that's both 1 and 2. Point 3 is: what does the site have? And therefore, what are you going to need to bring in? Considering the weather, ensuring that you have a site visit, and tying in with that is also how big or small you want the marquee to be. And that is basically consulting with your marquee company. And then finally, it's considering having a planner or at least an on-the-day coordinator to help run things. Because at the end of the day, guys, you are putting up a structure, you are adding flooring, you are adding lighting, you are adding power, you are adding a kitchen, you are adding water, did I say that? You are adding toilets, you are adding all of it. You are building it from scratch, which is totally doable, but just make sure that you've got the time to do it. And if you haven't, consult with somebody else to help you. There is a lot of moving parts with a marquee wedding. So there we go, guys. I hope you found that helpful. If you are panicking, then don't forget that we've got our one-to-one power hour services, which you can book, and we can literally just talk you through for an hour and just help you where you're stuck, give you some advice so that you can then go off and plan your wedding. It's so much more affordable than taking on a full-time planner if that's not in your budget. I hope you have a fantastic week, guys. Don't forget to check out our freebies in the description box below. They will help you. Please take them. They are yours. Congrats again, guys, on your engagement. Happy wedding planning. I will see you next week.